What's goody YTBC? What's good, fight fans, boxing heads around the world? B Marsh with another boxing video. So this particular video I'm about to get into is basically the best father-son boxing trainer, father-son tandems. You know what I mean? Basically, fathers who train their sons. You know what I mean? And basically the best tandems and combinations we've had in boxing. You know what I mean? So the first one I'm gonna get into, of course, is Floyd Mayweather Sr. You know, Floyd Mayweather Sr. to me is one of the best coaches. You know what I'm saying? If not the best coach in boxing. You know what I mean? I mean, this guy is a guy who's, he trained his son, Floyd Mayweather. Sure, he ain't training for his whole career, but I think whenever Floyd Mayweather is with his pops, a former trainer of the year, I believe, three times in, I think, '03, '06, and 2008. When Floyd Mayweather Jr. is with his pops, to me he's a better defensive fighter. His pops is the one who taught him that shoulder roll. And whenever Floyd fights with his pops, he keeps a tight shoulder roll. He keeps that Philly shell tight. You know what I mean? He got his chin tucked in. Just exposing just his shoulder, and the man gets it done. I think whenever Floyd is with his pops, I'm sorry, with his Uncle Roger, he's more of an offensive thinking fighter. He's more of an aggressive fighter. You know what I mean? And I think when he's with his pops, he's more of a cautious, safety first guy. You know what I mean? You seen the fight when Floyd had with Cotto. Cotto made this man Floyd bleed. You know what I mean? That was when he was with Uncle Roger. You know what I'm saying? So I believe Floyd Mayweather Sr. is one of the best trainers, and definitely, I believe, he should, what's his name? Freddie Roach has more Trainer of the Year awards than him, but I believe, in my opinion, Floyd Mayweather Sr. is definitely by far the better trainer, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so let's see who else we got on the itinerary one time. You know what I'm saying? Hold tight. Let's see who else we got. All right, let's get into we could get into Roy Jones Sr. You know what I'm saying? Roy Jones Sr. He's a guy who what I mean, he's a guy who coached Roy Jones. We gotta give him credit for teaching Roy Jones how to box. You know what I mean? Basically, everything Roy Jones knows is credit to his pops. But these guys had a tumultuous relationship, and the relationship strained. Just like Floyd Mayweather Sr. and his son, Floyd Mayweather. They went through trials and tribulations as far as their relationships, and Roy Jones at a point in time he cut ties with his pops, man, and he went with the trainer, what's his name? Alton Mickerson. Alton Murkerson, you know what I'm saying? Alton Murkerson is a guy who, he's a guy I've always known Roy Jones to fight with, being in his corner. Ever since I've known Roy Jones, since the 90s, I've always known him to be with Alton Murkerson. So I'm not quite sure when he split with his pops, you know what I mean? But, his pops is a guy who, he was a military guy. And, he was the kind of guy who would keep Roy Jones on a leash. Roy Jones ain't have much of a childhood, you know what I'm saying? Because, this guy was, he was basically like a dictator, you know what I mean? And he basically, controlled um, Roy Jones. And Roy Jones ain't have much of a childhood because he was always in the gym all day, every day boxing, you know what I mean? So the next guy we about to get into is, I just seen the man Nonito Donaire with a fine Filipina chick, you know what I'm saying? So obviously we're going to be getting into his pops, you know what I mean? His pops right there is, what's his name? Nonito Donaire Sr. You know what I'm saying? I believe he has a gym out there in the Bay Area. You know what I'm saying? And he's a guy who's coached Nonito Donaire. He's coached guys like Marvin Sansona, even Glenn Donaire. You know what I'm saying? Nonito Donaire's older brother. A guy who Victor Archinian punished. You know what I'm saying? And he gave him a spanking, and Nonito Donaire had to come save the day and save his little brother his older brother from that beating. You know what I'm saying? So this is Nonito Donaire Sr. He's a guy who coached Nonito Donaire. But at a point in time these two split also. The father son tandem split, and what you call it? The Nonito Donaire went with with Robert Garcia, you know what I'm saying? I believe that fight Nonito Donaire had with Rigondeaux, Robert Garcia was in his corner, you know what I'm saying? So, these two guys, they had a tumultuous relationship, but I believe they got back together. I believe right now they're back together, Nonito Donaire and this Pops, you know what I mean? So that's another one of those tandems right there. Okay, then we also have, let's see who else we have on the itinerary. Let's see. All right, let's see who we have here. We got Shane Mosley and Jack Mosley. You know what I'm saying? Shane Mosley, is a guy who was with his pops for almost his whole career. You know what I'm saying? He's a guy who you know who Jack Mosley was with his son from his amateur days. You know what I'm saying? All the way as a professional. I believe they split ways after Shane Mosley's first loss to what's his name? The Winky Wright, you know what I'm saying, for the undisputed titles at junior middleweight, you know what I mean? So I believe that's when they split. I can't recall if they ever got back together, you know what I'm saying? But I know this guy, Shane Mosley's been coached by guys like Nasir Richardson, and even as his last fight, he had Roberto Duran in his corner, you know what I mean? So, he was with him all. Jack Mosley was with him throughout his lightweight career, you know what I mean? When Shane was a monster. And, even at 147 when he came up and beat De La Hoya, you know what I'm saying? And even to his losses against what's his name? What's his name? Vernon Forrest, you know what I'm saying? Vernon Forrest from Atlanta, you know what I mean? So, we were speaking about Oxnard, man. Let's go into this guy they call Big G. Big G, Eduardo Garcia, man, the father of Robert Garcia and Mikey Garcia, you know what I'm saying? He's the guy, he's basically the patriarch of the Oxnard boxing, you know what I'm saying? Oxnard boxing, Robert Garcia, he got an Oxnard Academy out there, training young boxers, training them to become champions, you know what I'm saying? But Robert Garcia owes all the credit to his pops, Big G. Big G, Eduardo Garcia was with him when he won his first world title at what was it, at lightweight back in the late '90s. You know what I'm saying? And Mikey Garcia is trained by his brother Robert Garcia, but Big G is basically the like I said, the patriarch of the Oxnard boxing and the Oxnard boxing style. You know what I mean? And he even used to coach guys like Fernando Vargas back in the day. So big ups to Big G. You know what I'm saying? That's another one of those great father-son tandems right there. And let's see who else we got. Shane Mosley. Yeah, let's go into him right here, man. This guy they call El Terrible's pops, you know what I mean? Jose Morales. Jose Morales was a good coach, He's a guy who coached his sons, Diego, Eric, and Ivan Morales. Ivan Morales just lost a few months ago against Lee Haskins for the IBF bantamweight strap. You know what I mean? But rest in peace to Eduardo Gonzalez, to Juan Morales. You know what I'm saying? He was a good coach. You know what I mean? Jose, he was there with Morales throughout his career, but also him and his son Eric Morales. They split up at one point in time, you know what I mean? They split up. I can't quite remember which fight it was, but the father-son tandems, it's rare that, one fighter goes out through his whole career with his pops, you know what I mean? So that's one of those great father-son tandems, Eric Morales and Jose Morales, you know what I'm saying? Let's see who else we got. Let's see. Okay, let's get into this guy right here, Mark Too Sharp Johnson and his pops. You know what I mean? Mark Too Sharp Johnson was a guy who, the youngest member to ever make the International Boxing Hall of Fame out there in Canastota, New York. He's a guy who, who did his thing the first flyweight African American flyweight champion in history, you know what I'm saying? Arguably one of the greatest flyweights, if not the greatest flyweight ever. So Mark Too Sharp Johnson and his pops, man. I'm trying to get some footage of his pops. Hold tight one sec. You know what I'm saying? His pop's name was Abraham Johnson, you know what I'm saying? Abraham Johnson, or for short they'd call him Ham, you know what I mean? And he was a funny guy. He was a guy who used to keep his son motivated. And Mark Too Sharp Johnson knows everything to his pops, you know what I mean? You know, the guy, he was with him his whole career, you know what I'm saying? Every single fight I saw of him, his pops was in the corner, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get some footage of him right quick. Hold tight. It probably wasn't this fight where... Probably wasn't this fight. I believe it was probably a fight with Arthur Johnson where his pops was with him, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And he even spoke to Al Bernstein, you know what I'm saying, for the post-fight interview, you know? But Mark Too Sharp Johnson, his pops, you know what I'm saying, he's a guy who, that was a great father-son tandem, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the man Mark Too Sharp Johnson was a 3-time world champion in 2 different divisions, you know what I mean? So big ups to him. So, another guy we're going to talk about is this guy from Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. That's Yoel Judah, you know what I'm saying? The pops of Zab Judah, you know what I'm saying? He was a good trainer. He was with his son for many years, you know what I mean? And, I remember he was definitely there in that fight with, he's the guy who snuffed Roger Mayweather in that fight with Floyd Mayweather and Zab Judah, you know what I'm saying? When there was a little melee in the ring, you know what I mean? You check it. So, Yoel Judah's a good coach. He was with his son for most of his career. Then I remember Pernell Whitaker was Zab Judah's coach at one point in time, you know what I mean? So that was another good father-son tandem, you know what I'm saying? Let's see another one we got. If I don't have footage of him, I'm going to talk about Tito's pops, you know what I mean? Felix Trinidad Sr, you know what I'm saying? He was a good coach, you know what I'm saying? He was with his son his whole career, but he was a guy, you know what I'm saying? He was with him his whole career through the good and the bad, you know what I mean? But, he had some controversy in his career, and so did Tito when Nazim Richardson accused them of, trying to pad their fists, you know what I mean, when they taped their hands, you know what I mean? He said, that Trinidad had illegal hand wraps when he was about to fight B-Hop, and they made him retape him, you know what I'm saying? So he called him out on that, and the guy, William Joppy, the guy who fought Trinidad, who Trinidad took the title off of, he's a guy who's also accused Trinidad of, up to this day, he swears up and down that Felix Trinidad was a guy who had illegal hand wraps in that fight, you know what I mean? So, I don't know the truth and the whole truth and the fullness about that story, but that's one thing, they have controversy about Trinidad and his pops, Felix Trinidad Sr. They had a great stellar Hall of Fame career, you know what I'm saying? But that's one red flag, you know what I'm saying, about Felix Trinidad's pops, you know what I mean? And last but not least, man, we definitely got to talk about this guy that they call Enzo Marcanelli, you know what I mean? Oh, gosh, I said Enzo Marcanelli. Enzo Calzaghe, you know what I'm saying? That's the pops of Joe Calzaghe, you know what I'm saying, from Wales, the Italian stallion, you know what I mean? You check it, Enzo Marcanelli is a guy who coached his son his whole career, you know what I'm saying? He was with him from day one, and this guy wasn't even really a boxing trainer. He's trained other guys, like I remember he trained Enzo Marcanelli, actually. He even coached, what's his name? The guy who fought Broner, little guy. Gavin Reese. He trained him too, But, obviously, we're talking about him because of the remarkable job he did with his son, Joe Calzaghe. They went 46-0, undefeated, all the way to Canastota, New York. They're in the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? And he was with him from day one. And like I said, he wasn't even really a boxing trainer. He was a musician from Italy, you know what I mean? The pops is Italian, you check it? So, we got to give a shout out to him, you know what I'm saying? So, honorable mentions, man, for fighters today, I probably got to give Robert the Ghost Guerrero and his pops. Ruben Guerrero, got to shout them out, you know what I mean? Got to shout out also Danny Garcia and his pops. That's a good tandem, definitely a good tandem, you know what I'm saying? Also got to give a shout out to Lomachenko and his pops, you know what I'm saying? They're doing it big in boxing right now. I don't know. I can't remember the name of Vasyl Lomachenko's pops. And last but not least, we got to give a shout out to the Axeman, Nicholas Walters, and his pops. That's a good father-son tandem today. So let me know if I left anybody out as a good father-son tandem in the comment section. And please subscribe if you like the video. B Marsh Boxing. Peace.